Okay, so today let's get started in child's pose. Big toes together, knees apart. Sit the hips back, walk the hands forward, bring the forehead down to the mat. And when we start in child's pose, you can start pretty heavy and relaxed if it feels like the elbows want to rest on the mat, the forearms, but start to bring those hips back toward the heels. Let the head be heavy. Deepen the breath, take a deeper inhale in through the nose. Back out through the nose. Big inhale in through the nose. Slowly back out. One more together. And then you'll keep going on your own. Creating your breath rhythm for your practice today. And as you continue to breathe, start to walk the hands forward as far as you can, reaching the fingertips away from you, feeling those elbows lift away from the mat, and maybe the forearms lift away from the mat. Squeeze those arms together a little bit, but make sure you're still pressing into the index finger, thumb side of the hand. Widen the shoulder blades across the back. Keep sitting the hips back toward the feet, the heels. Then keep the hands where they are. Start to look forward at the hands. Shift forward so you're onto the knees, and you can separate the knees. You can kind of bring the knees in a little bit. They can stay wide. We'll step the right foot forward outside of the right hand. So it's a low lizard lunge and it's wide. So right foot outside the right hand. Hands are underneath the shoulders. You can start to reach the chest forward. The back knee stays down for now. We're just getting into that right hip a little deeper. And then come back to hands and knees. So bring that right knee back and we'll switch sides. Left foot steps forward, outside of the left hand. And keep the left toes pointing forward, left knee pointing forward. You can even hug that knee in toward the left arm. Reach the chest forward so you take the rounding out of the upper back. Hands are underneath the shoulders. Arms are straight. You're also reaching back with that right knee. So the right knee's behind the hip. And then you'll bring that left knee back. So you're back to hands and knees. Bring the knees all the way together. If you have a block might be nice. You want to bring that closer to you, or a blanket, towel, whatever you use. You can bring the hands to the calves and move them out and away from the legs, and start to sit the hips back between the heels. So tops of the feet are on the mat. You're hugging those outer ankles in. If the hips easily touch the mat between the feet, you can stay right here. If there's a gap between the hips and the mat, you want to fill it in with something: a block, a pillow, a blanket, a towel. Also, if you don't have one of these yoga blankets, folded beach towel or bath towel works really well. Something about that size whenever you're practicing. So those inner thighs, they're rolling down toward the mat. There's an internal rotation, but don't forget about the feet pressing into the mat and those outer ankles hugging in. And then you root the hips down underneath you, whatever they're touching, block, mat, towel. Sit up nice and tall, rest the hands on the thighs, close the eyes, draw the shoulders down the back, and lift up through the crown of the head. Nose points forward and then a little bit down. Come back to your Ujjayi breath. So this pose can be challenging in a lot of different ways. It's a nice internal rotation of the hips, a good opening of the quad muscles, good opening of the knees too, and also the feet, ankles, get a pretty deep stretch. Two more breaths here. Make them long and quality. And then you'll start to blink open the eyes, shift forward, remove anything you might have underneath the hips, coming back to tabletop, hands underneath the shoulders, spread the fingers evenly and look at the hands. Make sure the index fingers are pointing straight forward, not in. You could turn them out or forward. And with the hands underneath you, underneath the shoulders, step the right foot back behind you. So toes are tucked, heels over the ball of that foot. You can even take a peek while you have that leg back to make sure the heel's over the ball of the foot. And then the shoulders are still stacked over the wrist. Reach the heart forward. Keep pressing down evenly into the hands. So we get lighter in the index finger, thumb side of the hand. Step the left foot back. You're in plank pose. So think about stretching the legs in your plank pose and then using all the muscles in the body. So as you push down into the hands evenly, it's like those forearms are lifting away from the mat. So you're not just dumping down into the wrists. Hands are there for support. Forearms are lifting away from the mat. Biceps roll forward, triceps roll back. The heart reaches forward. You could even bring the gaze forward a little bit. Hug that core in. And then lengthen the tailbone back toward the heels. And you'll feel like the pubic bones going up toward the navel and chest. Quads are working, hamstrings are working, calves are working, toes are spread to support you. And you're still in that same breath, breathing in through the nose, back out through the nose. Then set the knees down onto the mat. Untucked. You can keep the toes tucked or untucked, whichever one feels better on the feet. Shift the hips back just so they're right over the knees, and then walk the hands forward and bring the forehead down to the mat. So you're coming into puppy dog, getting into the upper body here, shoulders, chest. But the hips typically want to shift when we're in this pose. So it is kind of hard to keep them right over the knees. So put some effort there. And then also for a lot of us, it feels good to let the belly drop down to the mat, but we want to hug it in a little bit. There's too much sway in the lower back if we do that. And we all know we want to protect that lower back. Keep the arms firm here, like you're trying to squeeze them together. So the upper body kind of feels like downward facing dog, just the head's touching the mat. And we'll take this into downward facing dog. So look forward. If you walk the hands pretty far forward, you might need to scoot them back a little bit. Tuck the toes, lift the hips up and back. And now you're in downward facing dog. You can pedal out the feet or just come to stillness. So those heels are coming down toward the mat, which should feel like a nice stretch in the legs after our hero's pose that we did, Virasana. Make sure you can't see the heels, so they kick out a little bit and hide behind the balls of the feet. Then inhale forward to plank pose. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Inhale, glide forward to plank pose. Exhale back, downward facing dog. This time, inhale forward to plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga, all the way down to the mat. Tops of the feet come to the mat, hands back by the lower ribs. Inhale up, baby cobra. Exhale, release. Two more. Inhale up, cobra. Exhale, release. Last one. Inhale up, cobra. Exhale, release. This time, come back up to hands and knees. We're back in tabletop, walking the hands underneath the shoulders. Turn the hands around so that the palms face up and the fingers point toward one another. So you're still fanning the hands out. You're putting some weight on the hands here with the fingers spread. Shoulders are trying to stack over the wrists. You can stay just like this. You can start to add a little bit of movement. So maybe you go forward and back a little bit. Depends on how comfortable you are with this whole position of the body. If it feels uncomfortable, maybe you just stay where you are. You could even do small circles going in one direction. And you might not even be able to tell that I'm moving much because I'm keeping my circles small. This is how comfortable I am with this. And then if you took those circles, go the other way. Come back to center, turn the hands back around so the fingertips point forward. And then you can either turn the hands around so that the fingertips point toward the sides of the mat, or maybe you go all the way around so the fingertips point toward the knees. So it's just about where the hands feel okay. Shoulders are stacked over the heels of the hands if the hands are turned all the way around. And we'll do cat-cow like this. So on an inhale, reach the heart forward. And on the exhale, round the whole spine, release the head and the neck. A few more on your own. Inhaling forward, exhaling back. And if you feel like it's too much for the hands, adjust, turn them back around. Last cycle, forward and back. Back to center. Adjust the hands so they are facing forward this time. Then walk them forward ahead of the shoulders. Tuck the toes, lift the hips up and back. Downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up between the hands, coming into a forward fold at the top of the mat. Let the head and the neck go. Clasp opposite elbows. Maybe you widen the feet. Sometimes it's really nice for the first forward fold to take a wider stance, way wider than hip width distance. Feet are closer to the outer edges of the mat. And then you can shift a little bit more forward so the weight's heavier in the balls of the feet. Nod the head yes a couple of times, no a couple of times. Switch the clasp of the elbows. And it's up to you how much of a bend there is in the legs. So you just listen to what the legs need to find that nice therapeutic opening. Hands come back down to the mat, heel toe the feet closer together, bring them back to hip width distance. On an inhale, come up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. On the exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold, Uttanasana. Last one. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. This time we're coming all the way up. Circle the arms on the way up. Take that big, long inhale. Bring the hands together overhead and down in front of the heart. Let's do a half round of Sun Salute A. Inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, forward fold all the way down. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up. Bring the hands together at the very top. Take your time and down in front of the heart. Interlace the fingers behind the back. Open up across the shoulders. Stretch the knuckles back behind you. So you're standing tall. Shoulders are moving away from the ears as you point the knuckles back. And then start to put a bend in the knees. You'll fold forward over the legs, starting to get a little deeper into the shoulders. So as you fold forward, those knuckles go back behind you. And it adds some weight in the shoulders to open them up. But keep moving the shoulders away from the ears so they don't take away space from the neck. And you can work towards straighter legs. Shift the weight a little bit more forward so the heels are a little lighter. And then switch the weaving of the fingers. So bring the other index finger on top. Keep those hands back. Hug the belly in so you can fold forward a little bit more. Hands come down to the mat. Step the left foot back, coming into a runner's lunge. And then set that back knee down. Keep the toes, the back toes tucked or untucked. It's up to you. Bring the hands up to this front thigh and push the chest away from the thigh. And then from here, right hand goes to the sacrum. So just above the glutes, that triangular flat bone. Reach the left arm up. So as you reach the left arm up, that right hand is there to help you bring the tailbone toward the pubic bone and the pubic bone toward the tailbone. So they're working in toward one another. And then you reach up as much as you can with that left arm, and you'll feel a nice stretch in the whole left side of the body. And looking up helps if you feel pretty stable. Dig into that right heel for stability. Keep reaching up. Keep working the tailbone and the pubic bone together as you reach up. And then slowly start to look forward. Bring that left hand down underneath the shoulder. Right arm reaches up. Back toes, tuck them. Lift the back knee. You're in a twisted lunge. So as you reach up with that right arm, hug the belly in, open up across the chest. And then turn that right palm to face behind you. Wrap the right arm behind the back, opening up the right side shoulder and chest. Shoulder still, that right shoulder moves away from the ear. Both shoulders move away from the ears. Then the right arm reaches up and over the head. Keep opening the chest. Right hand comes down to the mat. Step the left foot forward. You're back in a forward fold. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold, right foot steps back. Find that nice runner's lunge. Then set the back knee down. Bring the hands up to the front thigh. Push the thigh away from you to lift the chest. Left hand to the sacrum. Start to work that tailbone toward the pubic bone and the pubic bone back toward the sacrum. Reach the right arm up and start to lift once you have the hips in place. So when you think about the tailbone and the pubic bone going toward one another, it really adjusts the hips in a way where you don't have too much of a tilt in either direction. And it keeps a back bend really nice and safe. Keep reaching up with that right arm as much as you can. Feel all that length in the right side body. Start to bring the gaze forward. Right hand comes down underneath the right shoulder. Left arm reaches up. Tuck the back toes. Lift that back knee. You're in your twisted lunge on the other side. Move the shoulders away from the ears. Turn that left palm to face behind you and wrap the left arm behind the back. Coming into a half bind. Left arm reaches up and over the top of the mat. Keep opening the chest. Left hand comes down to the mat. Step the right foot forward to meet the left foot. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Bring the hands together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching the arms up. Exhale, forward fold all the way down. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, bend the knees, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway chaturanga, cobra or up dog. We've done a few back bends, so you're probably open enough for up dog if that's a pose you even like. And then lift the hips up and back, downward facing dog. So keep that weight even in the hands. The tiger's eye, that spot between the index finger and the thumb, the webbing, you really want to press that part down, as well as the whole circumference of the palm. So it should feel like the center of the palm is lifting up away from the mat. Then bend the knees, look forward, feet forward, step, walk, maybe lightly hop. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, fold. All the way up on the inhale, circle the arms, bring the hands together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Few breaths in downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, feet forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. All the way up on the inhale, circle the arms. Hands come together at the top and down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold forward all the way back down. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, hands come down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway chaturanga. Press up to your back bend. Make sure you're using the hands evenly, even here. Shoulders back, neck is long. Exhale back, downward facing dog. From this downward facing dog, lift the right leg up and back, three-legged dog. Step the right foot forward, up between the hands. Spin the left heel down flat. Take it to warrior two. Windmill the arms up, spread the arms out wide. Flip the front palm, reverse warrior. Reach up and back, up more than back. And that left hand's really light on the leg. You're still sending that right knee straight forward. Then straighten the front leg. Keep reaching up and back. You're in reverse triangle. Come back to reverse warrior. Send that right knee straight forward. Then windmill the hands all the way down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Vinyasa, if you want one, you're welcome to skip them anytime you want. Left leg reaches up and back. Step that left foot forward up between the hands. Right heel comes down flat. Warrior two. Flip the front palm up, reverse warrior. Keep that left knee right over the ankle as you reach up and back, and lift up with those left side ribs. Making some space between them, those intercostal muscles. And then straighten the front leg. Keep reaching up and back. See if you can get that left hip away from the left thigh. Keep the upper body, just send that left knee straight forward, back in reverse warrior. Windmill the hands down to the mat. Step back to plank pose any way you want, back to downward facing dog. A few breaths here. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Next, inhale, come into chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. Sit the hips back, hug the belly in, lift the chest. Press all the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands down to the mat, bend the knees, step back to plank pose. Take or skip the vinyasa on the way to downward facing dog. This time, step the right foot forward up between the hands, left heel down flat for warrior one. So hop that back foot in until you can seal the heel, square the hips, reach the arms forward and up. So forward facing warrior, hips go forward, chest goes forward. And there's a back bend here if you want one. So once you get the leg set up, left inner thigh going back, right inner thigh going forward, lift the chest. Maybe the gaze goes with it. And then you reach up with those palms. And start to bring the gaze forward, straighten the front leg, bring the hands to the hips, come forward halfway. So the legs are straight. That right hip is pulling back, the left hip is going forward. Once you are halfway, feel like you're arching the lower back, so there's no rounding there. And if it feels like it's rounding, then come up a little bit. Reach the arms back behind you. Keep that width across the chest. Come back to warrior one. So bend that front knee, reach the arms forward and all the way back up. Little back bend if you want one. Hands come down to the mat, step back to plank pose, vinyasa, or straight back to downward facing dog, or maybe you take a modified version of a vinyasa. Left foot steps up between the hands, right heel down, warrior one, hop it in. Right toes at an angle, square the hips forward, start to reach the arms forward and up. Square the hips, square the chest. Spin that right inner thigh back behind you, rooting down through the heel and left inner thigh forward. Then start to lift the chest, maybe the gaze, and you reach up. Same thing here, tailbone and pubic bone are working in toward one another. Start to bring the gaze back forward, straighten the front leg, bring the hands to the hips, hinge forward about halfway or less. So leading with the heart, feel like there's an arch in the lower back. So it's almost like cobra in the upper body. Legs are strong, they're scissoring together. Reach the arms back behind you. Keep the legs really strong. Come back to warrior one. Just find that bend in the front knee. Reach the arms all the way up. Little back bend if you want one. And exhale. Bring the hands down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Any way you want. Back to downward facing dog. Few breaths in your downward facing dog. Then bend the knees, look forward to the top of the mat, step, hop, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. Bend the knees, reaching the arms up. Dig down into the heels of the feet. Make sure you can see all 10 toes. Maybe you sit the hips a little lower as you lift the chest up a little bit higher. And we'll keep going with that. See if you can lower the hips, lift the chest. Keep going. Maybe use the hands to come to seated. Eventually, that's where we'll meet. Coming into boat pose, Navasana. If you can hover in a squat for a moment, try that. And then set the hips down, reach the knees up, arms forward. Chest leans back, so you have that nice long spine, and you feel the core kick on when you do that. And then extend the legs out in front of you, lower to Ardha Navasana. Heels are lifted away from the mat, and so are the shoulders. Interlace the fingers back behind the head. Stay right here, take an inhale. On the exhale, lift the chest up a little higher. Inhale back halfway. Exhale up. Inhale back, exhale up, inhale back, exhale up, reach the arms forward, come back to Navasana, woo. And then lengthen the spine. So looking up helps create that length in the spine. And then we'll take some rocks. So grab onto the backs of the thighs, rock forward and back a few times, building up some momentum. We'll come back to chair pose. See if you can use the hands as little as possible, if not at all. So back to chair. Good. Press yourself up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. So bring the arms down by the sides. Keep the feet hip width distance apart. You're just coming into mountain pose, but keep it nice and active. So feel the inner edges and outer edges of the feet working. It's almost like you're trying to spread the mat apart with the feet, but then also root down through the inner arch at the same time. Lift the kneecaps, lift the lower belly, widen across the chest and draw the shoulder blades down the back, and then lengthen through the top of the head, keeping the shoulders down. Start to shift the weight over to the right foot. And it's like you're sucking that femur bone up into the hip socket. So keep that activity in the foot. Just see if you can lift it an inch away from the mat. So you're still standing with that left foot underneath you. It's just not touching the mat. And then see how far back you can kick the left heel. It's not going to go that far, but you'll start to feel the hamstring engage and probably the glute. And then point the toes back on the left foot. You're still kicking back. Then bring the heel in toward the glute, reach back, grab for the foot. You can reach the right arm up for balance. So we want the knees side by side, and you're stretching the quad, the left quad, but you're also lifting the heart at the same time. So think about that stretch happening in the whole front side of the body. Left heel, you're bringing it in toward the glute with the hand. And then with control, we'll gently release the foot back down, coming back into our Tadasana mountain pose. Feet hip width distance apart. Start to find that strong, active Tadasana. So root down through the feet. Fire up the legs. Find some width across the chest. Draw the shoulders down. Keep the arms firm. And then find that focal point straight in front of you, whatever your drishti is going to be on this side. Start to shift the weight over to the left foot, and then think about just lifting the right foot away from the mat. Trying to keep the hips as even as possible. Just want to feel the sole of the right foot still working, even though it's not touching anything. And then start to point or stretch that right heel back behind you. So it's like you're trying to kick that foot back, but you're keeping it flexed. Keep the chest lifted. Point the toes back behind you, heel toward the glute, reach back, grab for the right foot, left arm can reach up, and here's where you get that stretch. So hug that foot in, lengthen the quad, knees are next to one another, and lift the chest. Same thing here, tailbone toward the pubic bone toward the tailbone. So notice if anything adjusted when you did that. It did for me. Left inner thighs going back behind you so you stand really tall. With control, gently release the right foot, feet or hands side by side into Tadasana, mountain pose. On an inhale, bend the knees, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose, Vinyasa. Right leg goes up and back, three-legged down dog. Step that right foot forward up between the hands. Setting up for warrior two this time. Left heel comes down flat. Take your time coming up to warrior two. Flip that front palm up, reverse warrior. Straighten the front leg, reverse triangle. This time, come up to standing, leave that front leg straight, just bring the arms out wide. And then heel toe the back foot in a little bit, so it's a little shorter of a stance. Reach the right arm forward, feel the hip shift back, and bring that right arm down and the left arm up, coming into your triangle pose, Trikonasana. Turn that left palm to face forward and reach that left arm up and over the ear. So when you do that, the left leg might have got a little stronger as you open up the chest. Maybe you float that right arm forward and it's like you're holding a beach ball and opening the chest forward. You'll feel the whole body turn on for this. Make sure you're breathing. And then come back to 12 and 6 with the arms, back to our Trikonasana. Look down at that right foot, bend the right knee a lot, reach forward as far as you can with the right fingertips. You're welcome to use a block underneath the hand. You're starting to shift forward to half moon. You could hop the back foot in a couple of times before you lift that left leg up. So once you get to half moon, point that right sit bone straight back. So it wants to go out to the right. And if that left foot feels like it's right behind you, bring it out to the left a little bit more. Open up across the chest. Maybe you reach back with the left arm, bend the left leg, heel toward the glute, point the toes. Maybe the hand and the foot connect. And then it's similar to what we were doing before, except this time kick the hand into the foot into the hand, and then reach the heart forward so you get long in the whole front side of the body. Vrichabhasana. With control, if you have the foot, gently release it. Half moon, Ardha Chandrasana. Bend the standing leg, reach back with that left foot. Reverse warrior. Reach that right arm up and back. Hands windmill down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Vinyasa, down dog, you choose. Left leg reaches up and back. Left foot steps up between the hands, warrior two, take your time. Flip the front palm up, reverse warrior. Straighten the front leg, keep reaching up and back, reverse triangle. Press into the feet and the legs, start to make your way back up to standing, arms spread out wide. Heel toe the back foot in a little bit. Start to reach forward with that left arm, hip shift back, left arm down, right arm up. Right palm faces forward, reach the right arm up and over. And then notice what happens in the right side of the body. Keep opening the chest forward. Maybe the left arm starts to float up. Hold that beach ball, shine the chest forward, squeeze those legs together. Keep breathing in and out through the nose if you can. Back to 12 and 6 with the arms, back in your Trikonasana Triangle pose. But we'll start to bring the gaze down toward that left foot. Bend the left knee, reach forward ahead of the left pinky toes, shift the weight forward, kick out through that right outer heel to lift the leg. Then open the chest to the side, make sure the left hip's right over the left ankle. Bend that right leg if you're playing with Shavasana and reach back, see if the foot's there. If it's not, just come back to half moon. And then find that stretch in your Shavasana. So the quad's getting longer and the chest is reaching forward. So you get really long in the front side of the body. Tailbone and pubic bone going in toward one another. Half moon, take your time. Reverse warrior, bend the standing leg, reach back with the right foot. Left arm reaches up and back. And you'll windmill the hands down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Last vinyasa if you want it. Back to downward facing dog. Right leg reaches up and back. Step the right foot forward outside of the right foot or right hand this time. So wide lunge, lizard. Hands underneath the shoulders, reach the heart forward. Then set that back knee down, untuck the toes. So you can stay right here with the hands underneath the shoulders. You could come down onto the forearms. A block or something like it underneath the chest is a nice in between. The only thing to be careful of with lizard is the upper back wants to round and we want to keep it straight. So keep thinking about reaching the chest forward in your lizard. And then one hand at a time, if you lower down, come back up to where we were, hands underneath the shoulders. You can set the block off to the side. Bring the right hand to the right thigh and open up the chest to the right. You can stay right here, right hand on the right hip, or bend the back knee, reach back, grab the foot, only if it's right there. And you can either press the foot into the hand or relax the foot and bring the foot in toward the glute. So feel whichever one feels better right now in your practice. And we'll let go of that back foot. Right hand comes back inside the right foot. Tuck those back toes, lift the back knee, step back to downward facing dog. Left leg reaches up and back. Step the left foot forward outside of the hand. Start with the back knee lifted, hands underneath the shoulders, reach the chest forward. See how this feels. And now you can start to lower that knee. Really want to get so far back on the knee, like you're stretching the knee back behind you. Top of the foot can come down if it feels okay. And then here's where you can come down onto the forearms, but try not to round the back. So if you have to round the back to get there, you've gone too far. And if you have a block, use the block. And still staying with your Ujjayi breath, even here. One hand at a time, come back up to the hands if you're not there already. Right hand stays underneath the right shoulder. Left hand comes to the left thigh. Open up across the chest, turning the chest to point toward the left knee. And then maybe the left hand creeps back to the left hip. Maybe that right foot starts to come in and you reach back, grabbing for the foot. And then here's where you decide, does it feel better to press the hand into the foot or bring the foot in, bending the arm closer to the glute? Gently release the foot if you have it. Left hand inside of the left foot. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee or back in your lizard. You can even stretch the heart forward one more time. Step back to downward facing dog. Then bring the knees down to the mat. So probably a good idea, unless you're on carpet and you have a lot of padding underneath you, but if you're on a hard surface, just fold the back of the mat in a third or halfway, and then you'll come to kneeling on the mat. So it's just a little extra padding. If anything, it should feel good and supportive, so you don't have any pressure on the knees. And then you're standing on the knees, toes are tucked behind you or underneath you, I mean. Hands come down to the lower back. So I'll just show you. You can bring the hands so that the fingertips point down. If you feel like the wrists are pretty open, you could turn the palms so that the fingertips point up. You're still hugging those outer elbows in. And those inner thighs, they're trying to lift up. So think about that. Keep the hips right over the knees. Tailbone going toward the pubic bone going back toward the tailbone. Start to lift the chest. You can stay looking forward unless you're comfortable looking up. And you're coming into modified camel pose, Estrasana. So legs are strong, chest is reaching back, however is comfortable for you. Quads are open, so is the whole front side of the body. Keep the integrity of the pelvis with the pubic bone and the tailbone coming in toward one another. Then start to look forward, start to reach yourself, bring yourself back up, and you can come to kneeling to rest. So sit back onto the heels, rest the hands on the thighs, let it all go for a couple of breaths. We'll keep playing with that pose. 2 more rounds, that's our back bend. When you feel ready, shift back up to kneeling. So keeping the hips right or standing on the knees, keeping the hips right over the knees, tuck the toes. Choose your hand variation, fingertips up or down, lift the inner thighs, pubic bone and tailbone going toward one another. Start to lift the chest, start to reach back with the chest, keeping the hips over the knees. Stay here. If you feel like it's pretty close, you could reach back and grab for the heels, keeping the hips over the knees so they don't go back with you, and then lengthen across the whole front side and back side of the body. Start to look forward if you're not already, hands back to the lower back, coming back up to standing on the knees, untuck the toes, sit back onto the heels. You can bring the knees and feet together, rest the hands on the thighs, close the eyes, feel what's happening inside the body after that back bend. Gearing up for the third one. This is the last one. Come back up onto the knees, separate the knees so they're hip width distance apart. If you want to keep the toes untucked to reach back for the heels, that's a deeper variation. Otherwise, tuck the toes. So whichever, it's totally up to you. Both of them are okay. Bring the hands to the lower back. Hug those outer elbows in, point them back, lift the inner thighs, pubic bone and tailbone working toward one another. Lift the rib cage, start to lean back, but don't take the hips with you. And then maybe the hands come back toward the heels. So going for space and length in the whole body. So no crunching anywhere. Start to bring the gaze forward. Hands come back up to the lower back. Bring yourself back upright. And then if you folded the mat, just unfold it. Come back to kneeling. And we'll take a child's pose with the knees and the feet all the way together. So tops of the feet are down, forehead comes down. Arms back behind you is really nice, resting the backs of the hands on the mat. So the child's pose version with the knees and the feet all the way together is nice because it gives you a little bit more spreading across the lower back. You can move the head side to side a little bit. Starting to calm down from those back bends. And use the hands to bring yourself upright. Come to seated on your mat, bring the feet over to one side, extend the legs out in front of you. And then bring the sole of the right foot in toward the hips. Cross that right foot over the left leg. And then you can take the outer right ankle and just stack the right knee on top of the left knee. And sitting up tall, you can stay like this. Another option, you could bend that bottom leg in. Make sure you can stay even on both hips. If you try it and it's a bad idea, just extend that left leg forward. But if it works, stay there. And then coming into our twist, you'll bring the right hand back behind you. Sit up onto the fingertips so you can get as tall as you can in the spine. Right arm can come to the, left arm can come to the right thigh as you start to look over the right shoulder. Inhaling for length, exhaling to twist. Feel both hips evenly on the mat. And you'll start to bring the gaze back forward. Keep the body where it is. Slowly unwind the torso. Extend that left leg forward if it's bent, then the right leg. And we'll come to the other side. So bring that left foot in, step it over the right leg, then stack the left knee on top of the right knee, sitting up tall. Maybe the right leg bends in too. You can test that out, see how it is. If it doesn't work, extend it back out. Stay even on the hips, sit up tall here. Bring those left fingertips back behind you to keep that length. Right forearm, left thigh, and start to find your twist. You can go slow, work your way into it. Gaze in the direction you're twisting in. Keep breathing in and out through the nose. Keep the body where it is. Start to bring the gaze back forward. Unwind the torso. Bottom leg, right leg goes forward. Left leg goes forward. Shift side to side till you feel even on the sit bones. Reach the arms all the way up. Fold over the legs, Pashimotanasana. Let the hands touch something, the mat, the legs, the feet, whatever's right there without reaching. See if you can shift the hips back a little more and the heels forward a little more. Navel reaches up through the heart. And you'll start to make your way back up to seated and choosing between a seated meditation or lying down onto your back for Savasana. Whichever one sounds like it would set you up for the day ahead. So if you're lying back, get yourself comfortable, maybe have something to cover the eyes, close the eyes, And if you're coming into your meditation, finding a seat that you can stay in without fidgeting, maybe sitting up on a block, closing the eyes, and we'll all come into stillness together. I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Begin to deepen the breath, starting to come back into your space. If you're in Savasana, start to walk the feet in, bending the legs, and rolling over onto your right side, staying there for a moment. Use the hands to press yourself up to your easy cross-legged seat, coming into your meditation. Keeping the eyes closed, sitting up tall, noticing how you feel. Bring the hands together. Maintain the lift of the chest as you bow the head to honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you.